I'm back to finish up chapter 7. So when we left off, Napoleon had just randomly assembled everyone out to the yard, and his dog started roughing up some of the pigs, and then the dogs seemingly on their own attacked Boxer. But Boxer managed to scare two of them away and pin one of them with his big old hoof. So now we're gonna see the aftermath of this kind of sudden outburst of violence. Presently, the tumult died down. The four pigs waited, trembling with guilt written on every line of their countenances. Napoleon now called upon them to confess their crimes. They were the same four pigs as had protested when Napoleon abolished the Sunday meetings. Without any further prompting, they confessed that they had been secretly in touch with Snowball ever since his expulsion, that they had collaborated with him in destroying the windmill, and that they had entered into an agreement with him to hand over Animal Farm to Mr. Frederick. They added that Snowball had privately admitted to them that he had been Jones's secret agent for years past. When they had finished their confession, the dogs promptly tore their throats out, and in a terrible voice, Napoleon demanded whether any other animal had anything to confess. The three hens who had been the ringleaders in the attempted rebellion over the eggs now came forward and stated that Snowball had appeared to them in a dream and incited them to disobey Napoleon's orders. They too were slaughtered. Then a goose came forward and confessed to having secreted 6 ears of corn during last year's harvest and eaten them in the night. Then a sheep confessed to having urinated in the drinking pool, urged to do this, so she said, by Snowball, and two other sheep confessed to having murdered an old ram, an especially devoted follower of Napoleon, by chasing him round and round a bonfire when he was suffering from a cough. They were all slain on the spot. And so the tale of confessions and executions went on until there was a pile of corpses laying before Napoleon's feet, and the air was heavy with the smell of blood, which had been unknown to them since the expulsion of Jones. When it was all over, the remaining animals, except for the pigs and the dogs, crept away in a body. They were shaken and miserable. They did not know which was more shocking, the treachery of the animals who had leagued themselves with Snowball, or the cruel retribution they had just witnessed. In the old days, there had been scenes of bloodshed equally terrible, but it seemed to all of them that it was far worse now that it was happening among themselves. Since Jones had left the farm until today, no animal had killed another animal. Not even a rat had been killed. They had made their way on to the little knoll where the half-finished windmill stood, and with one accord they all lay down as though huddling together for warmth. Clover, Muriel, Benjamin, the cows, the sheep, the whole flock of geese and hens, everyone, indeed, except the cat, who had suddenly disappeared just before Napoleon ordered the animals to assemble. For some time nobody spoke. Only Boxer remained on his feet. He fidgeted to and fro, switching his long black tail against his sides, and occasionally uttering a little whinny of surprise. Finally he said, "I do not understand it. I would not have believed that such things could happen on our farm. It must be due to some fault in ourselves. The solution, as I see it, is to work harder. From now on onwards, I shall get up a full hour earlier in the mornings." And he moved off at his lumbering trot and made for the quarry. Having got there, he collected two successive loads of stones and dragged them down to the windmill before retiring for the night. The animals huddled about Clover, not speaking. The knoll where they were lying gave them a wide prospect across the countryside. Most of Animal Farm was within their view. The long pasture stretching down to the main road, the hay field, the spinney, the drinking pool, the plowed fields where the young wheat was thick and green, and the red roofs of the farm buildings with the smoke curling from the chimneys. It was a clear spring evening. The grass and the bursting hedges were gilded by the level rays of the sun. Never had the farm, and with a kind of surprise they remembered that it was their own farm, every inch of it their own property, appeared to the animals so desirable a place. As Clover looked down the hillside, her eyes filled with tears. If she could have spoken her thoughts, it would have been to say that this was not what they had aimed at when they set themselves years ago to work for the overthrow of the human race. These scenes of terror and slaughter were not what they had looked forward to on that night when old Major first stirred them to rebellion. If she herself had had any picture of the future, it had been a society of animals set free from hunger and the whip, all equal, each working according to his capacity, the strong protecting the weak, as she had protected the lost brood of ducklings with her foreleg on the night of Major's speech. Instead, she did not know why, they had come to a time where no one dared speak his mind, when fierce growling dogs roamed everywhere, and when you had to watch your comrades torn to pieces after confessing to shocking crimes. There was no thought of rebellion or disobedience in her mind. She knew that even as things were, they were far better than they had been in the days of Jones, and all that before else it was needed to prevent the return of the human beings. Whatever happened, she would remain faithful, work hard, carry out the orders that were given to her, and accept the leadership of Napoleon. But still, it was not for this that she and all the other animals had hoped and toiled. It was not for this that they had built the windmill and faced the bullets of Jones's gun. Such were her thoughts, though she lacked the words to express them. At last, feeling this to be some way substitute for the words she was unable to find, she began to sing Beasts of England. The other animals sitting round her took it up, and they sang it 3 times over, very tunefully, but slowly and mournfully, in a way they had never sung it before. They had just finished singing it for the 3rd time when Squealer, attended by 2 dogs, approached them with an air of having something important to say. He announced that, by a special decree of Comrade Napoleon, Beasts of England had been abolished. From now onwards, it was forbidden to sing it. The animals were taken aback. "Why?" cried Muriel. "It is no longer needed, comrade," said Squealer stiffly. "Beasts of England was the song of the rebellion. The rebellion is now completed. The execution of the traitors this afternoon was the final act. The enemy, both external and internal, have been defeated. In Beasts of England, we express our longing for a better society in days to come. But that society has now been established. Clearly, the song has no longer any purpose." Frightened though they were, some of the animals might possibly have protested, but at this moment the sheep sat their usual bleating of 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, which went on for several minutes and put an end to the discussion. So Beast of England was heard no more. In its place, Minimus, the poet, had composed another song, which began, Animal farm, never though we shout thou come to harm. And this was sung every Sunday morning after the hoisting of the flag. But somehow, neither the words nor the tune ever seemed to the animals to come up to Beasts of England. Bit of a turning point. There's about 3 chapters left, and unfortunately, we only have 1 more week of assignments. We'll be reading chapter 8 next week, hopefully. Still haven't made the packet, so we'll see. Even if we don't finish Animal Farm during this time, I really, really highly encourage you to read it, especially in a time right now where we're seeing an increase in totalitarian and authoritarian governments all over the world. We see it in Russia still. We're seeing the rise of it in Brazil. We are even seeing bits of it rise up here in the US. In times like we are living now in the US, I think it's really important that we read things like Animal Farm, where we see what can happen if too much power is put in one place. And as I have just said, that is becoming frighteningly more and more common throughout the entire world. So we heard some more rumors about Snowball, some more beliefs about Snowball. So you can use that to fill in right here. What information are Napoleon and Squealer spreading about Snowball? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then think back or go back earlier in the book. What did Snowball actually do or say before he was kicked out? What did he actually do? And what do the animals now believe that he did do and was doing because of the information that Napoleon and Squealer are giving out to them? That is obviously propaganda and is building some stereotypes about that little pig. That is the end of our reading for this packet. You'll be hearing from me over this medium 1 more time next week for our last packet of the year. I'll say more about this for the next packet, but I just really do miss you guys. I miss reading to you guys in front of you. I miss seeing you. I miss talking to you. But seeing what you guys write and getting your assignments, it's nice to hear your voices in that way. So cannot wait to see this assignment turned in. I hope you guys are staying in and staying safe, and you have my best wishes.